All right, guys, what's up? In this brute shoot, we're gonna talk about how to get better at Metconning. Now, I know this is a common question that a lot of people have, and clearly in CrossFit, when we talk about, we're only a few weeks out and removed from the open, so there's a ton of motivation, internal questioning happening, like reflecting on why didn't those Metcons go as I planned for them to go, or why does it feel so different in the open versus how it feels in my day-to-day training. And the truth is, when it comes to getting better at Metconning, there are several aspects that we've got to consider. And it really depends on what your limitation is, or what your limitations are, because for a lot of us, they're plural. So when we go to referring to the basics, we think about breathing, because a lot of us naturally assume that breathing is our limitation. The truth is that breathing is often the correlate of us being limited in other ways. And what I mean by that is this. In a workout like Fran, when you're doing thrusters and pull-ups, let's assume you as an athlete are decent at pull-ups, and you might even be able to do 21, 15, 9 unbroken, or close to completing those rep schemes within 2 sets. But the thruster is where you struggle and it's hard. In turn, you start to get a lot out of breath, you're breathing heavy, you're suffering, you want to put your hands on your knees, and before you get to the pull-up, you've wasted 20 to 30 seconds. Sure, it could be a breathing limitation, but if you really reflect on what it might be a correlate of, is often your strength. And what I mean by that is, what is your 1 rep max thruster, or what is your 3 rep max thruster? If in training we can make these things increase, so we can make your 1 rep max thruster go closer to 250 pounds versus 200 pounds or versus 190 pounds, that 95 pounds in the workout for males or 65 for ladies is going to be extremely lighter. That's going to allow you to move the barbell with more efficiency and less effort. So in a workout where there's more than 45 reps, like Fran, where there's 45 exactly, then you're going to be able to do that and conserve energy and get right to the pull-up. And that equally can be assumed about gymnastics. So it might not be a barbell movement, it might not be raw strength, but your limitation specifically could be along the lines of skills or maybe body weight strength. So an example is with the pull-up in Fran. You may only be able to string together sets of 3 or sets of 5 pull-ups. What we need to do then for you in order to get better at that Metconning of Fran itself is to increase the ability for you to either cycle larger sets or to be able to just go unbroken throughout the workout. How do we do that? We do a lot of training that's going to reflect local muscle endurance and skill work. So that means you don't always just have to do pull-ups to improve your pull-ups. You can do other modalities of pulling. It can be upright pulling, it can be horizontal pulling like ring rows or upright rows. It can even come in the form of other barbell pulling movements like a clean and other things from the floor that are going to still correlate to the same muscle groups that are going to be used in a pull-up. Another thing to consider is time under tension. So just hanging. When we look at athletes that have a gymnastics background and they come into our sport, one thing that differs someone like me that came from football to someone like a gymnast is that they hung from their own body weight for minutes on end in training as they started to accumulate those years of training as a baseline. And for me, I spent much more of my time on the ground with barbells, with weights, resisting external loads. So their grip strength, their local muscle endurance, and their hands and their forearms is exceedingly greater than mine. This takes time to build up. So those are an example for a gymnastics improvement or gymnastics progression. We had it for the barbell. And then when it comes to specifically for breathing, what can you do for your endurance? It's pretty obvious to most of you, and most of you don't want to do this work, but it's elongating the time domain that you train, right? Sure, in a lot of CrossFit tests, a lot of open events, the workout is sub 12 minutes, sub 15 minutes, and you usually get 1 or 2 that might go to the length of 20 or 18 minutes or so. But for the most part, we train short and high intensity. What we need to do to build a bigger base of aerobic conditioning is to train longer. With Brute right now, if you're a part of our program, you're starting to get a taste of that. We incorporate CrossFit style movements, but we're incorporating any elongating sessions that are more based on flow. 7 out of 10 effort, but it takes 20, it takes 40 minutes to do so. So we're getting some local muscle endurance while we're not overly fatiguing the body and the central nervous system to the point where it's going to deter the results that we're looking for in regards to building our aerobic base. So that's a simple thing. You can also just add more running, add more swimming, add more rowing, right? The non-sexy stuff that a lot of people tend to avoid. These things are also at a particular particular intensity are going to help you build that aerobic base. The downside to that is that they do take a good bit of time, and that you may lose a couple friends that want to jump in on the Metcon with you that might not want to do this stuff, but that extra work is going to add up for you. So when it comes to getting better at Metconning, guys, it's not just as simple as diving into a Metcon every day and going as hard as you can. Because the truth is, you're always going to find a way to go easier, right? Like our body naturally doesn't really like pain. We'll find ways to resist it. You're going to find ways to lose intensity and be more efficient. But that's not always what's going to maximize your results. So think about sprinkling in longer sessions. Think about sprinkling in more linear strength training if you need to get stronger. And also sprinkle in those skills and think about building local muscle endurance for your bodyweight movements. These things are going to make you better at Metconning.